All right, it was good to get that first conference win under our belt, and I think like I expressed after the game, it wasn't easy. Guys had to fight for it. I think a lot of that credit goes to Idaho State continuing to go after it, and they definitely have some players that can cause some problems. But ultimately, I think our physicality, I think, showed through in the fourth quarter, and our guys didn't panic. I think being down or getting to that point where it was down to a one-score game, we responded, with a touchdown, a big play, and then got a stop, and then a drive and a touchdown. So pleased with the way it finished, and I know you look at the film, a lot of things that we can correct, and that's I think our guys are eager to do that. It'd be great to be back home this week, and have another obviously a conference foe. I do want to acknowledge our crowd down there. It was significant. In an environment like that, when you have that many fans, I think that certainly helps us out. So pleased with that, and look forward to getting back home and playing in front of a stadium full of our fans. But that was uh, that was awesome to see down there. So in Northern Colorado, we faced a team that that has been struggling record wise. Saying that they've competed really well at times this year. They took Abilene Christian, who's a ranked team, right to the brink. It took a last second field goal for Abilene Christian to win that game. They've played really a pretty decent schedule to this point, and they've had flashes. I know that the Abilene Christian game, is the one that stands out. But they were competitive with Colorado State, Incarnate Word. They've had some challenges. They've played five different quarterbacks this year. Anytime you even say or think that in itself makes your stomach turn as a coach. So that's created some issues for them offensively. I know on the flip side, defensively, they've played some really good stretches of defense and have some really talented players on that side of the ball. So, it's a big week for us to keep moving forward. I think we got out of that game pretty well intact health wise. I know we're another week closer to some of our guys being able to get back. I don't think this is a week for Polidor, Davis, Perkins by any means, but they're out there practicing, doing more. In the case of Drew and Julius, more this week, so another step for them. And I know we're anxious to again get back home and get this conference schedule continuing to move. And just so happens that Northern Colorado is the next one up. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
I know it looks like Taki went out with something when he's on the depth chart. He'll be fine.
I think it was yeah, didn't finish the game. We'll see how it goes through the week. He hasn't been ruled out this week by any means. I know, John, will miss the first half. It was a good targeting call. But I think he continued to make strides. That cash should be off his hand this week. So yeah, that's the update on Taki. I guess going back to him.
Marquis, he wasn't out there in kickoff.
Yeah, Marquis didn't make the trip. Marquis in the last game, I don't know if you remember the one kickoff return, he got taken into the sideline. That did cause enough of a, I guess, injury that will keep him out for at least a couple weeks. Yeah, I didn't know that where that was this time Monday last week, I guess, but as we moved through the week, it looked like it would be significant enough to keep him out for a couple weeks.
Ontario.
Yeah, we put Ontario out there for one game. I know we're still conscious of redshirting him, so I don't know that that'll be this week's answer necessarily. I think a lot of it goes into the kick return game in itself is, are you going to get opportunities? I think we felt like there was potential for opportunities against Idaho State, so we went with Ontario. I think he's got some real potential to be a returner. We'll see how that looks this week. I know whether it's a combination. I know Jared White would be a potential guy back there. I think Ty McCullough could be a potential guy. We could put Taco back there. I mean, we got some other guys, but it won't be Marquis, and I don't know that it'll be Ontario this week.
A team that plays that many quarterbacks that get played, the preparation like that you gotta watch.
Well, I think we feel like there's a couple guys that are just out. So you narrow in on the guys that you feel like will play. And and what is their mode, what is their style. I know in this past game, it didn't appear that the two guys they played are going to be out for this week. Two different types. I know one much more of a runner, and as far as their running game goes, they do have an element of the quarterback run, and he would be the main threat, number 10, and then the young guy number 11 they played as well. So I think those are the guys you prepare for. You prepare for the offense that those two have run, because it has been a variety based on who's been playing quarterback for them.
And then I guess just the rest of their offense, just skill position.
Yeah, I think running back wise, they got some good players, for sure. And I think the passing game, it's hard to tell. I guess at some point, because I think that's been dictated by who's been playing quarterback. I do know they have some capable guys there. They got a big, tall tight end that they like to get involved. So, yeah, I think we got to prepare for them continuing to make progress with the two guys that they played this past week, knowing that they do have some capable skill, whether it is running back, receiver, or tight end. Well, I think they got some good players up front. I know that's always the first thing that jumps out to you, whether a team, how they're going to hold up front. And I do think they have, in their front seven some talented players, some good size, some good athleticism for that size. They've been able to disrupt run games at times. They move in and out of different fronts. They're not afraid to pressure. So, they've had a bunch of different games. I think that's how you look at it a little bit. They've played really well at times defensively and held some teams down, and then they've had like these last 2 weeks where they've been playing from behind. They gave up some big plays to Cal Poly. That was really the nature of that game, was Cal Poly making some really big plays. It wasn't their ability to sustain much, and it was big plays in the passing game in particular. A couple of deep shots that got behind them. So I'm sure those are things that they'll work to correct. I think anytime you're down there trying to stop the run, you're devoting people to it, and you're making yourself vulnerable downfield, and that's kind of what happened more than anything in this past game. So, yeah, I think they get a good front, and they can disrupt a run game, and obviously that's what we want to do, is be able to establish a run game. So I think that's where the battle certainly starts.
This weekend's matchup being homecoming, having the 1984 team come back and beyond this Saturday, just kind of what that means to your program and just having it back.
Yeah, it's obviously a year and a team that is very important to the tradition here at Montana State. That team doing what it did after a year where they won one game, and then the next year all of a sudden they get on this run, this magical run, and take it all away. They've left their mark. And while there's a lot of guys from that team that are in the community, I know there's upwards towards 40 plus between players and coaches that are going to be around here, 40th anniversary. So looking forward to it. I know, anytime you can honor a national championship team, not all programs can do that. And fortunately for us, there's 3 of those teams in our past history. So obviously they're the most recent, and it'll be great to have a lot of those guys back in town.
Does the Northern Colorado near win over Abilene Christian, and then you kind of think about like Davis winning this week at Idaho after Idaho looked so great, does it kind of remind you just how unpredictable week to week for this league and this?
Yeah, and I think just college football in general, you start getting into all this score comparing. I think it's a place to set some benchmarks. And even just talking Abilene Christian, Abilene Christian almost loses to Northern Colorado, and then they have this tight game with Idaho. You look at a team like Maine. Maine comes in here and we play really well to start. They've stacked up a couple wins. They beat UAlbany, who's in this mix of teams that is considered a ranked team, and so. I just think you have to be ready every week. You're gonna, when you're a team that's on the top of the conference, you should expect everyone's best. And teams being consistent, and being able to bring their best every week is just not the reality of sports. That's what we want to do, but it's not the reality. So you could pull it out of the FBS, you could pull it out of the FCS. That there's surprises. There's inconsistencies all over the map, and yeah. So the first week of conference play, the first full week of conference play, I think certainly had some surprises, and what we got to do is certainly guard against ourselves being surprised, and that's more so just all of a sudden we just show up and lay an egg. We can't do that. It might be a struggle. I think how Idaho State, how that game played out. I think we felt like we're in control, but this other team's trying really hard too and playing really hard, and you're going to get their best. So being able to outlast them is what we have to be about each and every week. So, yeah, I would expect Northern Colorado to bring their best this week, and we'll have to hopefully bring our best right back at them.
And to that point, you haven't lost to a below 500 team, FBS, FCS, in your tenure now at MSU. How prideful are you of that?
Well, I think it's a mark of our consistency. I think it's a mark of our guys. Really, when we come in here on a Monday morning, you talk about what you need to correct. You watch the film. You allude to the next opponent to some degree, but really, what can we do to keep getting better? What can we do to make sure we make the most of this opportunity? In college football, you only get this year 12 guaranteed to you. So shame on you if you don't go out every week and give it your all and try to show up with the same team in a team that's improving. I know a lot gets made out of big games and all this. They're all big. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I think we've continued to pound home how each and every one of our games is big. They all count as one. You want your record to keep growing and getting better, certainly, but they're all big games, and Northern Colorado's the next one. And this is another great test for us to remain this consistent outfit that's about, its own improvement more than who they're playing.
You spoke with Zac Crews earlier, and he was specifically thankful for you and the rest of the coaching staff for giving him this opportunity. So, what can you kind of add, about the impact you guys had for him?
Yeah. Well, I think so. He's been with us for quite some time now, and I think who he is has played out through that time. He was a young man that made a huge mistake, and we knew enough of him prior to that mistake, of who we thought he was, to ultimately give him that chance. And he's done nothing but earn his teammates' respect, go about his business. He's a great student here at Montana State. He's been a great teammate, and he's starting to obviously show up on Saturdays more and more on the field. So, when we brought him on, there was certainly some perceived risk, I guess. But I think deep down inside, we felt like, okay, he was a person that was worth giving another chance, and that's I think, like I said, to this point, I think it's played out how we would have expected, not hoped. I guess that's probably how I would finish that statement.
Is there an example of his character that he's shown?
Oh, I just think he just fits in. He's just he enjoys his team. I think he loves competing. He loves playing the game of football. He takes his studies really seriously. So no, I think he's the type of person you want on your team, and it wasn't easy at the beginning, and there was respect that needed to be earned. It wasn't just, hey, you're on the team, you're stamped as you got it all figured out. It was about him just going about his business. Really, thinking back to that whole first calendar year, I think he was who he was on a daily basis, and that in itself won his teammates over and his coaches and everything. So I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's just this is who he is much more than obviously one huge mistake.
And just one thing for the ISU game, there were some comments about running it at the end instead of kneeling it.
Yeah, that's fair. It was we didn't think we were going to have to run another play, and then the Adams helmet popped off, so we had had to run another play. I don't. We ran the ball up the middle. I don't think our intention was to pile it on, but we ended up scoring again. I don't like the fact that that's the way it appeared. That wasn't our intention. We were trying to get out of there with a win. Hindsight, being what it is, we should have just kneeled on it, quite frankly. So there was no intention to do anything more than just to finish the game, and it ultimately played out the way it did. We scored another 6 points, and that wasn't really done for any reason. We were just trying to snap the ball one more time because we had to, because the Adams helmet popped off.
Coulter, do you have anything?
Hey, Coach, a couple from me. There's supposed to have a crossover with Coach Lamb and you in your career. He's a defensive guy. He's always been really good defensively. So I guess people are fair to crossover with him. How do you describe the way they look defensively this year?
Yeah, so he was a coach at BYU when we played them in the Poinsettia Bowl in 16. And then I would guess there would have been a year maybe at Southern Utah. I can't even remember the last time we played Southern Utah at North Dakota State. So I would think there would have been a year or so there. Maybe we missed him by a year, but no, I think he's brought a principled nature to their outfit. All that being said, that it takes time for all this to take hold. I defensively, they are. They're aggressive. They're certainly built around, to me, their front four. They play a lot of guys up front. They give you a bunch of different looks. Their looks all make sense at the same time. They're not just throwing things up against the wall and seeing if they stick. They have made it hard for teams at times to move the football. They've been playing from behind a lot these last couple of weeks, so that exposes you a little bit more, I suppose. And they've been on the field quite a bit the last couple of weeks defensively at the same time. But that group has continued to fight and scratch and claw and do all they could. So, I just getting to know him a little bit through our interactions, through the conference meetings and such. Had a lot of respect for who he is as a person, and I think he's has a track record, obviously, with the head coaching success at Southern Utah that. You can see that they're making strides at Northern Colorado.
When it comes to holding inconsistency of a football team, is that a direct action daily? Is that something you can recruit to personality-wise? How do you sort of make the whole picture when it comes to holding consistency? You talk about that being a whole lot of the program.
Yeah, I think there's some element of recruiting the right types of guys. Whether they have it all figured out or not, you feel like they can figure it out. Guys that are choosing your program for the right reasons, which generally speaking are centered around team. And I think just continuing the language that we do from day one of, trying to really be present in the moment, trying to do everything we can in any particular day. Talking a lot about sacrifice and doing whatever it takes for the team. I know Coach Herron, puts them in a lot of team situations through the course of the off season, and so you're constantly about much more than just yourself. And I think when it's about that, you figure out how to give your all, and the more guys that think that way, the more consistent you're going to be. You can't ride that wave, say, in the off season with just your effort and how you go about your business and showing up on time or lack thereof, and all of a sudden think on a Saturday that's going to all of a sudden change, or during the fall when you're practicing football that's going to change. So I think a bunch of credit goes to Coach Herron and his staff for how we operate through the off season, and then I think our guys, if we don't have a lot of outliers, I would say. So that's a positive, right? We don't have a lot of guys that don't fit in. And if typically if they don't, it's a short-term thing where not short-term meaning they're gone, but short-term, okay, they figure out how to fit in. Our transfers by and large, I think wherever they're coming from, they get here, and I think they really appreciate what we're about. And I think we've done a good job in trying to identify that on the recruiting side. But guys fit in, or they figured out how to fit in, and we got older guys that hold them accountable, and coaches that hold them accountable throughout the year, and ideally that creates a consistency then that shows up on Saturdays.
Mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago about, how everybody's gonna give Montana State their best shot. And Montana State's had great teams over the years, but that's been consistently true now for, 5, 6, 7 years. You guys always be in the top 5, top 10 nationally. So how much of a learning process is that? Truly knowing like, hey, this could be the Super Bowl into your play, but maybe like you look like.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot this year. Don't let your perception dictate your performance. And you can get caught up into this wave of, okay, what it looks like on film, or you can look at scores, you can look at stats and have this perception, well, this team isn't this or that. But to your point, I mean, we got to, whatever you see as this team's best, that's what you got to expect. So I know in this instance, you can point right to one game, the Abilene Christian game, and expect what you see there. Expect that. Doesn't mean you don't watch the other games. Doesn't mean you don't take inventory of what else has happened. But expect their best. Like a team like Idaho State. I mean, they had been up and down through their first 4 games, but when they flashed, they flashed, and that's what you got to expect. We've been consistently at the top now for a few years, and our environment is one. When we play at home, this is what you want to play in. So these opposing teams, they feed off of that, no different than our teams do. And we hope it has an impact negatively on them, but there is this positive impact that it has on young men coming in here on other teams and saying this is what it's all about. We talked about that a few weeks ago with Mercyhurst. They're going to play in front of hundreds, if maybe thousands of fans here and there, but all of a sudden they get in this environment. They're playing against 20, or against us, but in front of 20,000 plus. That's going to bring something different out of them. So I think just continuing to be real about those conversations and what what this team we're facing can do, and expect that. And and the flip side, hey, we got to find a way to keep bringing our best, and that's, you want to make it more about that ultimately, but expecting another team to show up and play is what we do.
Big picture question, sort of related to the Zac Crews scenario, but I've always thought that football is such a great example of multiculturalism, of people from all different places, backgrounds, and stuff come together. That's particularly true in small places like Fargo, North Dakota, and both Montana. Do you agree? And if so, how much can a football team be an example of how multicultural organizations can work?
Well, you'd like to think a well put together football team should be what you want society to look like. Meaning we have all different types of backgrounds, whether it's the size of the community young men come from, the location in our country. Obviously, race comes into play. Um, Backgrounds that your family has. I mean, all these differences that come together, and at the same time, these guys are 18 to 22, 23 years old, and they're in this stage where they are starting to make their own choice about who they are, what they believe in, more so than they have to this point. We talk about it a lot, and get our guys together to talk about their backgrounds. And that being said, when you're growing up, you're you're at the mercy of your background, so to speak. Whether that's your location, your family background, whatever. And some of that's positive, some of it's not. And ultimately, what we can do through this stretch of time is hopefully learn about one another, why we think the way we do, and really have a positive impact, and then allow our guys to go out into their lives and be a positive impact entirely. I think that's how I look at it as a head coach is how wherever these guys come from, whatever their thinking is, can we shape and mold them through the next 4 or 5 years to then they can have this impact on their community, on their family that is positive. And maybe to your point at the beginning, boy, if society thought that way, we'd really have something.
Dash, you mentioned him in the class, I think he was out for you at Central High School. I mean, he's a really smart guy, and it seems like he's just competitive in all elements of his life. So how much did that play into, like you said, he just really thinks from a big trip. So how much did this sort of all the other stuff play into, you guys?
I think it all mattered. There was an impression made on the front end recruiting. There certainly was the impression I allowed Coach Oliver in particular at Sentinel High to share with me who he was, but it went farther than that at Sentinel High, what the people there thought of him. Zach had a lot of people come to me with support. Supporting him, supporting who he was, and I think that all had an impact. But it really initially it went back to the opinion that myself and our staff had on that front end of kind of who we thought he was, and you know, was he the type of person where that instance of that mistake was who he was, or was that a mistake that he could move on from? And we thought the latter, and we're not to the 2 year stage quite yet of him being a part of this program, but we're closing on that, and he's been the latter. He's been, in a lot of ways, a model student, a model student athlete, all those things.
Last question for you. Are you growing up in North Dakota, Minnesota?
I grew up a Vikings fan. I see your hat.
You still follow it all?
I follow him enough to hopefully not get sucked in, but I follow him. Yes, it's primarily Vikings country where I grew up, and it's good to see them get off to a good start.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate
Yep,
it.
absolutely.
Anything else in the room?
Just on the NFL front, Detroit, pick six in game.
Yeah, well, beyond the pick six, I've involved with 17 tackles. Yeah, pretty significant day for Troy, and ultimately, what I was excited is they won the game. I know it came down to a kick, which he had nothing to do with, but you have that type of impact on a game. Ultimately, I know Troy's biggest concern is whether they would win or not, and they won. So happy for them on all accounts.
Right, yeah.
So I know it was a week ago, but I guess just getting your first receiving touchdown, I guess how'd that feel?
It felt good. It's kind of crazy that that's my first one. I played a lot of games here, so it felt good to finally get one.
I guess road win last week. I know sometimes playing in domes can be kind of weird, but I guess just get that win last week. How'd that feel?
Yeah, the last time we played in a dome, it was Idaho, the Kibbe Dome, and that was not a fun game, as everyone knows. So we went to Idaho again, played in another dome, and this dome was a lot cooler. It was like weird how it was shaped because it was shaped like with the field, but I didn't think it was any different. It's still football at the end of the day, so.
Well, your first dome experience, you had a pretty big play against NAU. How did you think back to that play at all, and that dome experience or that dome environment?
No, not really. Yeah, it was a good play, but it was 3 years ago, so I don't think too much about that anymore.
Can you take us through that 50-yard punt return?
Yeah. I caught the ball on like the 6 yard line, I think, and I had a bad first couple plays of the game, and I kind of wanted to get something going, and we were kind of stalling out in offense, and our defense gave us a stop and a chance to get the ball in my hands and get a return. So I was kind of greedy and got the ball in the 6 and returned it up to past the 50-yard line and got tackled by the punter. So I'm not too happy about that, but I got tackled by the punter like 3 times this year. So Coach Udy might have to start blocking the punter.
Yeah, how much trust do you have in the rest of the guys blocking for you on that field?
Ultimate trust. I mean that I get a lot of recognition for punt returning, and there's 11 dudes on the field. I'm just the one with the ball in my hands most of the time, so it's not really anything special that I do. I feel super comfortable with Andrew Powdrill and Caden Gray, and they do a great job. And Rylan Ort's always looking out for me, so it's a good job.
Does it help, I wonder, like, practicing with Brendan? Because, like, he's a phenomenal punter, you're a phenomenal punt returner. What's that like?
Yeah, that's a good question. People don't really realize that, but yeah, he bombs. Pre-game, he was hitting the ceiling in the dome, and I was like, "What do you do if this happens in the game?" But yeah, practicing with him is sweet, and we had a lot of practice. We had a hang 10 rep when we were actually punting, and he punted it, and I ran down there and caught it. So stuff like that, that's pretty tough to do, and that gives you a lot of confidence, like just sitting back there and looking up and catching a ball. So.
3-0 on the road so far this season. What do you think is the main difference from last year to this year?
Schedule part of it, I think a little bit. And I mean, we didn't play at SDSU this year so far, being completely honest. But we're also a different team. Our off season we attacked a lot harder than we have in previous years, and Tommy's balling right now, so that's really good. And we have a lot of weapons on offense. I think more than we've had in a lot of years. So.
Did you guys have to like do anything different preparing for road trips this year?
No, it's a football game, so
Gotcha.
yeah, just
Kind
play
of the
football.
same process.
Yeah.
And I mean, going back to punt, you caught one of Brendan's punts in the game. So was that kind of weird or cool to be able to catch, punts as a returner and as a gunner?
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, Coach Udy does a good job of putting us in positions to make plays like that. That's a big play in a football game, pinning their offense down inside the 5 or at the 5, whatever it was. Field position comes into play in tough games, and that was a tough game up until the very end. So, yeah, I mean, that's on coaching too. So.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were the offense was kind of slow in that third quarter there. And I think that was when you caught it right around there. So how important do you think, special teams and the defense, of course, too, for to keep in that game, to make sure that you guys didn't have too much pressure on offense?
I think it's important. I mean, football is special teams, offense, and defense. It's not offense or just defense, but I think that we clicked at the right times in this game, and our defense had the right stops at the right time, and they were balling the whole game. Special teams played well. I mean, we had that decent return. And we had a 45-yard field goal. That's big for his confidence, and the team's confident in him. So special teams was dialed. I mean, we're going to be dialed, I think, for a lot of games to come.
You mentioned Tommy balling. That was his longest throw for a touchdown to Rohan. So what are your thoughts on that?
Those two are awesome. I love seeing Roe score. He's just awesome human being. And yeah, that was a great play call. I mean, we were running the ball down the throat, so. A little bluff play is kind of smart from the offense, so it's just a good job.
How much confidence do you think that New Mexico comeback gave you guys to know that you could pretty much go and beat anyone on the road?
I think it's good. I think we knew before that game that this team's just different. Like we're gonna fight. Like it starts with Tommy, obviously. We're gonna fight. If you follow your leaders, and that we have 24, 23 of them this year. We're going to be fine. It gave us a lot of confidence.
How much do you think that short passing early, you caught one on the first drive, how much do you think that was that just trying to spread them out, or was it just simply like that was the best play you guys?
It's simply getting the ball in your playmaker's hands and trying to make a play. Unfortunately, I didn't make a play, but yeah, that's all it is. Get your best players the ball and see what you can do. Hopefully they can.
Anything stand out about Northern Colorado in this homecoming matchup?
I think that their secondary is pretty good. We haven't watched too much of them today. We kind of corrected a lot of the bad plays that we had from this last game, but their secondary is pretty good, and they haven't won a game in a little bit, but that doesn't mean anything. They're a really good team, so we got to come out and start fast, I think.
What was your, if any, perspective of Scott Trey's run when he kind of ran over that safety?
He just runs mean. It's hilarious. Yeah, he had his best game, I think, as a Bobcat. He made a couple cuts that I was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen you do this before. But he's coming along. Him and Adam both. Jared had a couple good runs too, so I'm excited for Julius to get back too. He's different.
Talk about mean.
Yeah, talk about mean.
How do you just random question? How do you kind of stay ready in such an offense that runs the ball so much, being a wide receiver?
You just have to. You gotta. If you're not ready to catch a ball any play in the game, you're not gonna be playing. Coach Udy does a good job of keeping us dialed, and we run through the plays a lot at week. We double reps, so everyone's getting a lot of plays. We're not really taking it easy at practice, so you just got to be ready. You got to expect the ball every play too. That's a big thing. If you're not expecting it, it might get on you quick, and you might drop it or something. That's all it is.
Do you think you were gonna have a touchdown on that ball that was tipped early in the game?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. Too bad Tommy and I aren't the tallest people, but yeah, it is what it is. We won.
We're pretty.
Yeah.
You mentioned Julius coming back. Didn't count. Tommy had a hurdle. Did he give you guys hurdle lessons or something?
He doesn't give me hurdle lessons because no one's gonna go low on me. They'll just stun me. But I don't know. He might have gave Tommy lesson. That was ridiculous. That was hilarious. I was like trying to block and I saw him hurdle and I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta keep blocking here. But it was hilarious.
Good?
Yeah.
Thanks, Zac.
Nope. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Improvement on us too.
Well, how do you feel like you played and the defensive line have played so far this season?
I think we got to a little slow start, didn't get a sack till that third week, and so slow start, but I think we've been dominant. We stopped the run. Ultimately, the offenses have been game planning us against us a little bit, trying to get the ball out quick, so it's just finding opportunities when we can, and ultimately, not putting too much pressure on ourselves and just going out and knowing what we can do. Brody's been dominating, and it sometimes filters over into how we play, so just keep beating off each other, and the whole defense will succeed.
Yeah, is it hard to stay patient when you're in the backfield as much as you were, especially the last game, and not being able to take down the quarterback?
Yeah, it's definitely frustrating a little bit, just being able to lay so many hits on the quarterback and not getting there for a sack. But Coach Howe was saying it all game, just be patient, it'll come. So, just not trying to get too frustrated with yourself, because ultimately it slows you down, it makes you think too much. So just staying confident within ourselves and doing what we can do.
I know it was 2 games ago, but what was that feeling like when that ball bounced up and on the punt block and the touchdown?
Yeah, honestly, it couldn't have been easier. Anyone out there could have caught that touchdown. Neil and Ort did all the hard work there, blocking the punt and taking the block. So ultimately, I didn't. Everyone gives me the congratulations and stuff, but ultimately, I didn't really do much. I kind of just got lucky, and the ball bounced my way. Obviously, it's super exciting scoring a touchdown for this team, making an impact in the game with it on defense or special teams. It's always really exciting.
What's it been like to have 3-4 of you setting all guys making plays every game? The social media's even playing into it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's like kind of a joke in the locker room. It's a Sparty party everywhere we go, but to see when we blocked that punt, when they posted and stuff, and it was like a Sparty party, it's really cool to see it come to fruition, and just all of us coming from Missoula, playing at the same high school, same alma mater, and then just coming here and making plays. It's really exciting.
How big have those interior guys been this year? Paul, Blake, Alec, just kind of helping you guys out on the edge?
Yeah, obviously they don't get a lot of credit for all the dirty work that they do. They eat up double blocks all the time so that we can come free. They move those guards out of the way so we can come inside and ultimately get sacks. But they don't get a lot of the credit, so they should get more. Honestly, they're big guys down there, and they do a lot of the dirty work that no one recognizes in the stands. But in our room, we know and we cherish their hard work.
What's been so effective about your guys' rush defense and just even being able to get off the field on third downs?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of that's to do with our secondary. They've been covering great and makes the quarterback hold the ball, and that's what ultimately lets us get to the quarterback. And then, with that being said, getting the third down, stopping the run on first and second down is huge. It's a big key to our defense, so that we can get in those third down situations and get off the field.
Defensive line as a whole, you guys have been pretty dominant at the start of the season. But in your eyes, what makes you guys special as a group?
Just the way we prep for each game. Doesn't matter who we're playing. It's always about us, about how we prepare, attack each week, each and every day, and we just come out and practice and set that physical tone so that when we come out on Saturday, it's nothing new to us.
Your path from Missoula to here, how did you process that? What have you kind of learned from that incident and the whole situation with that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's obvious I made a huge mistake. I ultimately didn't realize that at the time. I was a child back then, and I should have realized that then, but now I got the opportunity to learn from it. I'm truly blessed that this coaching staff and this team was able to open up their hearts and minds and let me in and not just shut me out. they did a lot for me. I mean, they could have just said, no, we don't want this guy here, but they let me in the locker room. They let me get to know each one of them, and they ultimately got to know me. And when that happens, I think that a lot of people can look past the mistake and realize that I learned from it, and I could teach others about my mistake. And now I got brothers for a lifetime now, and I'm truly thankful for that.
You were able to get some scholarship money early this year from what was it? It was it was through the collective. But
Trolley's tailgates. They raised some money for me to ultimately pay for my tuition here. It's super exciting. Paving my way here, losing scholarship. It's a huge mistake I made, and ultimately cost me. But being able to put my hard work down, put my head down, see that hard work come through, and ultimately get some of that money back to help pay my way. I know I'm not super thankful, but my parents are way more thankful than I am, just because it takes a huge burden off their shoulders and helps me, ultimately get a degree here at MSU.
What does it mean?
Get you Four Corners Dental next.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, any dental programs out there that want to help me, I'm all ears.
What does it mean being a Bobcat to you?
It's everything. Like I said, I didn't know I was going to get the opportunity to play football again. For a while, I was just down in the dumps, and I thought that I lost my opportunity to play. And Coach Vigen, this coaching staff, Coach Garza, Coach Howe, they went out on a limb and they let me come here, and so did this team. And so I owe them, honestly, everything. I owe my college education, my opportunity to play football, everything. It's because of these guys. So it means literally the whole world to me.
I know next man up has kind of been a mentality for this whole team,
Mhm.
but I guess how have you guys kind of taken that challenge onto the D-line, replacing a couple of starters from last year?
Yeah, so our goal, throughout fall camp, is to get 8 guys good enough to be starters. That way we can just keep firing guys through as the game goes on. And I think Hunter and I and Kenny and and Brody all knew that. And so we just pushed each other throughout fall camp, throughout spring last year, and continuing to push each other in practice, just so that we know that whoever's on that field, we're ready to go and we know what we need to do.
Is there a name for that package that you lined up in last week with Brody kind of playing linebacker and floating a little bit?
Yeah, it's called Cowboy, Melstone Cowboy and all. So we're kind of experimenting with it. We're not sure where it's going to go, but it's pretty fun out there. We kind of get to make our own thing up and kind of just go attack the offensive line in a new way.
We've heard that some of the D tackles don't love that the cheetah package because it's all D ends.
Yeah.
So how have you? I mean, how much do you guys like it, and how much do you guys try to, balance out the who gets to play out there?
It's a competition for sure. We're always giving each other hard times. If we have bad steps or don't finish a rep good enough, it's always like, oh, I don't know if you're going to be on it this week. But it's a lot of fun. The D-line or the interior guys definitely want to be out there because the best part of our job is getting sacks, getting TFLs and stuff. So it is a huge competition to get out there. And ultimately, it's just the way we prepare and we dive into the film and stuff, watching their O-line and just being able to go out there and go full speed and compete with the O-line.
I know you explained it off camera, but just for the camera, explain what happened to the tooth.
Oh, yeah. I've had problems in the past. In high school, I chipped it twice, and then this past summer, I had to get it pulled out, and so it's just glued in there. And I made a tackle and a bit down on my mouth guard, and it popped out and spit it out in the field. But I found it after the game, so we will figure out what we're going to do with it, going to the dentist hopefully today or tomorrow.
How much confidence, 5-0, 3 road wins, do you guys have going into this almost latter half of Big Sky play?
Yeah, a lot of confidence. I think, almost halfway through the season now, we got to see each other play. We've played a lot with each other, gotten a lot of guys reps. So I think the depth's there. We got confidence, but ultimately not being satisfied. Keeping that underdog mentality, a chip on our shoulder, and realizing that we still got a long ways to go.